I woke up and I chose Sexy Witch today. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to enlighten you. I'm going to teach you something very valuable, and that is how to get into reading as a semi-adult. I was never a big reader as a child. I didn't hate reading. I wasn't one of those kids either. I just was one of those, I'll read a book and then I won't for the next 2 years, but I don't hate it. And I really got back into reading in high school when I was 17, so at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, rough times. So today I just wanted to share with you how I got this hobby to stick, how I'm still reading books almost every single day, how I am now so passionate about reading that I'm putting videos about it out into the internet, into the abyss that is the YouTube algorithm. I think it is no secret that reading is very great for you. I think you all that you have clicked on this video know that reading has a lot of advantages for your brain, that reading is one of the most valuable forms of entertainment that we as people can consume in our day-to-day life. And as such, I think a lot of people have a hard time getting into it because I feel like it is very glorified, and a lot of people feel like they need to be a certain kind of reader to be a real reader, and I just want to talk a little bit about that today. As I said, I got into reading at the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020. I'm not exactly 100% sure. And it was one of those New Year's resolutions where you're just like, yeah, I'm probably going to try to do that, but you already kind of know that you're probably not going to stick with it, and you're not really mad about it either. You just tell yourself that you're going to try because you need to feel some sort of put togetherness at the switch of the year, because you want to feel like you're going to accomplish so much more in the next year, even though we all know that nothing really changes once the date does, but we still try, you know. So it was one of those New Year's resolutions. So I was like, I'm going to read more books in 2020. I want to read more English books because I really wanted to improve my vocabulary. I think, as most of you know, I'm not a native English speaker. I think you can probably hear it too. And well, my English is very decent. It has been for a very long time. I mean, in 2018, I went on exchange year in China, but my closest friends, they were from the US and Australia, so I spoke a lot of English, and my English obviously dramatically improved. So at the end of 2019, my English was probably the best it had ever been at that point. And I needed more. I wanted to do more. And also I just learned over the course of the past few years that translations can do a lot of harm to the source material, and I know English, so why would I need to read the translation if I can read the original and not risk having the story suffer through the translation? Another thing was also that, truthfully, I just wanted to be one of those cool people that sit on the bus and read their book, and everyone's like, oh my god, what are they reading? They're so educated and smart. Look at all the other kids looking at their screens, and this teenager just has her book in front of her. Oh my god, there's hope for a future. I wanted to be one of those people. I wanted to be somebody that was perceived as smart and educated. I don't really know where this notion is coming from, because I still feel that way. I still want to be smart in the eyes of others. And that is probably a lot to unpack, but I'm not going to get into it. So it was definitely one thing that I wanted to be perceived as educated, and that I wanted to also learn. I also wanted to educate myself. I didn't just want to be perceived in the way of an educated person. And then lastly, which honestly should probably be the biggest motivator for you to read, but it most likely isn't, there's so many factually proven advantages for your brain to reading. Your brain processes the consumption of written words very differently than it processes movies or TV shows and all of those things. And reading reduces stress. It also helps improve your sleep, and obviously, you know, a lot of people these days sit in front of their screens until like the minute they go to bed, and that is just so unhealthy for your natural sleeping. And reading counteracts it, because reading, you know, actually helps your brain calm down. Not all reading, because honestly, if you've ever been in the middle of a climax of any book, you know that that shit ain't relaxing, but the act of reading itself is proven to, you know, help you sleep better and all of those things. And I was aware of that, and I would like to tell myself that that was my main motivation to pick up a book, but just between the two of us, it probably wasn't. Oh well. So at the end of 2019, I made my Goodreads account. I started to get onto BookTube because obviously I just had no clue what was out there. I had no clue what I liked. I wasn't really big into TV shows anymore. Like, I had been big into TV shows all through middle school. And then after my exchange year, I kind of stopped a little bit. Like, I kind of ebbed out of that phase. So I had no idea what I even liked in media, what kind of tropes I like, what I needed from the fiction I was reading. So I got onto BookTube. Great decision. I still follow some of those people that I met back then. And actually, even though I started to watch BookTube, I didn't start immediately buying things. Because, fun fact about me, I had actually been on German BookTube a while back, like in 2016, 2017. And I was watching a lot, and back then, I mean, the German book community, since it's less diverse, there's just less discourse on consumerism in general, and there's very little discourse on consumerism in the book community to begin with. There practically was not. All the booktubers that I was watching in 2016, 2017, they would haul like 15 to 20 to 25 books a month, and I just felt that I needed to own that many as well, which for 14-year-old me, that was not exactly attainable. So I would spend a lot more time, you know, looking at books online, trying to find the cheapest books, possibly purchasing books, than I actually did reading books. And I didn't want to fall into that mindset again when I started to read again in 2020. So I just kind of read whatever I had laying around. I owned a few books that I hadn't read, either gifts or books that I had meant to read and just never gotten around to. If you look at my Goodreads from the beginning of 2020, it's actually kind of wild, because no taste. It's just, I don't even know who she was, but I just read whatever I could and tried to fall in love with the act of reading more so than with the actual stories that I was consuming. Although I also did read some good books. And obviously, the more I read, the more confident I grew in what I liked and what I didn't like, even more so, which honestly can also be very valuable information to have, to know what you don't like. So I started to slowly purchase a small collection of books. And you can definitely see when I started to spend money on this hobby on my Goodreads, because suddenly, first of all, my average rating just spiked up because I was reading books that I was actually interested in, but also just the style of books that I was reading. I was very much into YA, like contemporary stories, not in the sense that I loved them and devoured them. I just enjoyed reading them. I just had fun with them. I have unhauled most of the books from that time, to be honest. There were only a few that are still on my shelf, but they were fun nonetheless. And I also started to get into classics, where my love for literature and reading truly began. Because reading classics did everything that I ever wanted out of reading. It helped me improve my vocabulary because the language is just more advanced. It helped me understand the culture and the people and places and all of that, but especially culture. It helped me understand culture so much. Classics also made me seem like a smart and educated girly, because if I'm sitting like in school mysteriously and reading my copy, like my 1,000-page copy of Anna Karenina, I felt smart. So classics pretty much did everything I ever wanted, and the weirdest thing of all was I actually enjoyed the reading experience of them, which is ultimately what you need to get into reading. You don't need to like everything that you read. You don't need to be interested in everything that you read, but you need to enjoy the reading experience, because if you don't, that is what will get you into a reading slump. That is what will make you quit a book. That is what will make you unmotivated to pick up a new book after you finish one, if you don't enjoy the reading experience. I have read plenty of books that were bad, that I had little fun with, that I still, when I look back to the reading experience, I'm still glad that I read them, and they still helped me get more into reading and helped me, you know, develop more love for literature, because the reading experience in and of itself was pretty great. Now I'm actually going to give you some helpful tips for how you can actually love a reading experience and love getting sucked into a story without feeling overwhelmed or pressured to do so. I think the most obvious tip is just enjoy the content of the book. If you enjoy the content of the book, you're most likely going to enjoy the reading experience as well. And for that, to find a book that you enjoy, it's kind of trial and error at the beginning if you're not really reading. And also if you're like me and you don't really watch TV shows or movies, just try everything. Just try to read as diversely as possible, because once you find your niche with anything really, you won't be as tempted to break out of it. You won't be as curious to read things that aren't inside your niche. So try to read as diversely as possible in the beginning and try to find the things that you like. My second tip is probably my personal favorite one, maybe second favorite. It is make reading a whole experience. You don't always have to do this every time you pick up a book, but I find that it's so helpful when you want to read, you know, light a candle, make yourself a cup of tea, maybe put on some background music. I love putting on like ambiance music, or like, I don't know, like Hogwarts Common Room, like Gryffindor Common Room. I'll leave some links down below of my favorite videos. And you know, setting yourself in the mood to read. First of all, it's probably going to make you stick to this reading session longer. And second of all, it'll just enhance the reading experience. If you're, for example, reading a book, you're listening to a playlist that is kind of curated for the book, or you're listening to the movie soundtrack for the adaptation of the book that you're reading, it'll enhance your reading experience. And if you're enjoying the reading experience, you're going to enjoy reading and you're going to get more into reading. I think you're getting it, right? So make the reading experience in and of itself as enjoyable as you possibly can. This is my favorite tip. Make reading so easy that you cannot not do it. I think this is something that people say about all kinds of habit making. Make it so easy that not doing it seems just kind of ridiculous. For me personally, that is like reading 10 pages. If I have a book and I'm kind of finding it hard to get through, I usually sit down and I'm like, I read 10 pages right now. If I don't feel it at all after that, I'll just put the book down and read another 10 pages at another time. And that is a great way to get through a book, because again, I personally I have to close the window. This dog. Yeah, I just find that not all books that I enjoy, I fly through super easily. And that can be very discouraging. But 10 pages to me, you can also do 1 page or 2 pages or 5 pages or 20 pages or however much you feel comfortable with. 10 pages I can do in like 10 to 15 minutes. It's literally like 0 effort for me to read 10 pages. And usually that is how long it takes me to kind of get drawn into the book. Like 10 to 20 pages is usually how long I take to settle into the story. And once I read the 10 pages, usually I want to read more. And I always think to myself, if I read 10 pages like 3 times a day, like in the morning, throughout the middle of the day and in the evening, that is 30 pages that feel like I put 0 effort into picking this book up today. Next one is, this one's actually maybe a bit controversial. That is, try different formats. I personally really like physical books, but I also do really like ebooks. And I find that when I read ebooks, I actually read them faster, or maybe not faster, but I read them more often, because I'm more inclined to pick up an ebook, because you can hold it with one hand. Turning the page is literally just a tap with the finger. It's so much easier to read an ebook than it is to read a physical book. And if you can make your reading experience any easier, do it, because it will help you stick with it. Audiobooks are also a great alternative. I personally struggle a little bit to comprehend things when I'm just listening to them. So I don't really listen to audiobooks, because I usually have to put my full attention to them. and then I can't do anything else. And if I can't do anything else anyway while reading, I might as well read the physical book. But audiobooks are definitely a great thing to try out, especially, for example, if you're commuting a lot, if you're driving a long way to work, if you work out a lot or whatever, if you have a lot of time where you can be listening, even though you can't be like putting your eyes onto something. And trying different formats will make reading easier for you, because if you find ways to make reading more accessible and more incorporatable, is that a word, into your everyday life, it will be easier to stick with it. And my last tip is get involved in reading groups and communities, and try to make reading kind of a community thing, really. I personally have like one close bookish friend. She watches my videos. Hello, Lisa. And she is great. We love Lisa. We stand Lisa on this channel. She has great taste in books. Literally, when she tells me she didn't like a book, that is reason enough for me to never want to pick that up. And the other way around, if she tells me she rated a book 5 stars, I will be interested in that book. And it's so fun because whenever we sit down, we just talk about books and we rant about the things we're reading. And since our tastes are very similar, it's just so, like, we just bounce off of each other. And that alone, like, just reading a book just so I can get to talk about it with her or with you guys, that is already sometimes worth picking the book up for me. And also, if you get to talk and share your thoughts and opinion, it feels less like a solitary activity, if you will. It feels more so like you're really involved in something, even though you're just reading a book, and that can really help make you enjoy the overall reading experience when you get to do it with someone else. So yeah, my conclusion to this video is just, you don't have to read a lot. You don't have to be a big reader. You just have to enjoy what you're reading, and you just have to enjoy the act of reading. And if you can find yourself a way to do that, you're already halfway into being completely sucked in the world of books and literature and this wonderful community, and you'll be able to enjoy all that literature has to give. And I hope you guys can figure that out. I hope you guys can fall in love with words just as I did 2.5 years ago. And I hope you all can subscribe to this video, to this channel. That is it from me. I'll put a video somewhere here where I talk about my new e-reader and why I like having an e-reader and some of the advantages and disadvantages. On the other side, you can subscribe to the channel if you wish to do so. And if you do, I'll see you in my next video. And if you don't, I'll probably never see you again, but it was nice having you. Have a nice day, everyone.